Hello everybody! Today we're making cupcakes, so here's what you need. Butter, salt, baking powder, sugar, flour, oil, milk, a lemon, a spatula, 2 bowls, measuring cups, measuring spoons, an electric mixer which is optional, a cupcake pan, an ice cream scoop, and cupcake liners. When I make cupcakes, I usually double the liners just because it helps soak up whatever excess oil comes off the cupcakes, and it stops the cupcakes from getting too crispy like around the sides. So I went ahead and did that first just so that I don't have to worry about putting the cupcake liners in the pan right before I need to put the batter in. The measurements that I'm giving you guys are only gonna make 12 cupcakes. So if you want to make more cupcakes, you might have to double or triple the recipe depending on how much cupcakes you're trying to make. When measuring the ingredients, make sure that you level them off with a straight edge. You're going to take one of the 2 bowls and put all the dry ingredients in except for the sugar. That would be the flour, the baking powder, and the salt. After you put these dry ingredients together, you're going to use a fork to mix it all together. This is important to make sure that each ingredient gets mixed thoroughly through the batter. The same thing can be accomplished using a strainer or a sifter, but I just find using the fork easier. I didn't mention this in the ingredients in the beginning, but the recipe calls for buttermilk, so instead of making you buy it, I'm going to show you how to make it. The first thing you're going to do is cut the lemon in half and juice one side. You can juice both sides if you need to, but you're only going to need 1 tablespoon of the lemon juice. So you see, after you get the lemon juice, you're going to measure it and put it in a small bowl. I put a whole cup of milk instead of using the half a cup of milk just because I didn't want a half a tablespoon of lemon juice, so I made double the amount of milk that I needed. But after you mix it together, you're going to let it sit for 5 minutes. Now before you actually start making the batter, preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Now it's time to cream the butter and sugar, and I use oil and butter because oil adds moisture to your cupcake, and I like my cupcakes very moist. I know some people like their cupcakes a little on the drier side, so if you prefer a drier cupcake, you can substitute the 2 tablespoons of oil for butter. Creaming the butter and sugar is basically just combining them until you get like a fluffy texture. And it is important that you don't over cream the butter and sugar because it will have negative effects on the texture and taste of your cupcake. You can do this part with the electric mixer, but I just choose not to. But let me tell y'all, this is one hell of an arm workout. I totally forgot to tell you guys that you're going to need 2 eggs. So if you're actually going to do this recipe, I'm going to put a list of ingredients in the description box. So when you go out to do your shopping or you're checking your kitchen, refer to that list. But yeah, after you finish creaming the butter and sugar, you're going to add the 2 eggs to that. Once you finish mixing that together, remember that bowl that we had before with the dry ingredients? Yep, you're going to add that to this mixture. You are not going to put all the dry ingredients in at once. You're going to put at least half of it and then thoroughly mix it all together. Make sure it's all incorporated, and then you're going to add the other half and do the same thing. And this process stops you from over mixing the batter. If you overmix the batter, you'll end up with cupcakes that have sunken in centers, and we don't want that. At this point, you see that I have fully incorporated the dry ingredients with the creamed butter and sugar along with the eggs. Now I'm going to add the second half of the dry ingredients, and this time I'm going to add the buttermilk and then mix everything all together. You only need half a cup of the buttermilk if you are making the recipe for 12 cupcakes. If you decided to double the recipe and make 24 cupcakes, then you will need the whole cup of buttermilk. You'll notice like every now and then I will use the spatula to scrape the ingredients off the side of the bowl, and that is just because you want to make sure that you incorporate everything. Like, don't leave flour and everything up on the side of the bowl. This whole mixing process is another opportunity to use the electric mixer, but for smaller batches, I don't really feel the need to use the electric mixer. Y'all can go ahead and get your little arm workout. You want to mix till everything is combined. Don't keep mixing for too long after everything is combined. You see the texture is nice and smooth. Little air bubbles are good. I want to make sure that you guys notice the texture that you're supposed to achieve. Like, it's not clumpy, it's nice and smooth. I wasn't recording when I added a teaspoon of vanilla, so make sure that you add that before you put your cupcakes into the tin. Now, if y'all have not realized by now, I am a very clumsy person, so I broke my ice cream scoop. Typically, you could just scoop it up and then press that little side thing, and then the batter will fall out very nicely. But mine is broken, like I just said, so I have to use another spoon to kind of take it out. But the objective of using the ice cream scoop is that you would get about the same size scoops, so your cupcakes will look pretty much uniform. Like, you won't have one really big cupcake and one really short cupcake. Also, if you have cupcakes of like all different sizes, they'll cook at different times. So some of them will be more crispy than others, and then some of them might take 12 minutes while others may take 10. And it's just cuter when all your cupcakes are like the same size. So get you a spoon that allows you to make scoops of similar sizes. I was able to get 13 cupcakes out of this batch, but I did not make the one with the extra batter. By dropping the pan, it gives you a more even cupcake, so you want to do that until it looks like this. Time to let it bake! Your oven should have already been preheated to 350 degrees. Now, if you're doing a bigger batch, I would say leave it in there for 17 minutes, and if you're doing a smaller batch, leave it in there for 15 minutes. All done! So I'm attempting to show you guys the texture of the cupcake just to show you like how fluffy it is and moist it is, because you guys obviously can't taste it. Here's how to make the icing to finish it all off. You're going to cream a half a stick of butter by itself. You're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. You're also going to add a cup and a half of powdered sugar. And you're also going to put 1 tablespoon of milk, and add food coloring if you're trying to achieve a colored icing. Now, you don't have to stick to the 1 tablespoon of milk, because depending on the consistency of the icing, you may need to add more. But for me, I only needed to add 1, and then I used the electric mixer and combined everything together. You'll see the mixture starts to turn purple. Now, this goes for the same thing with how I said this only makes for 12 cupcakes. You may have to double or triple this recipe to get enough icing for a bigger batch of cupcakes. Before you decide if you want to add more milk to your icing or not, make sure that you mix everything together first so that you can see what texture you're dealing with. You don't want an icing that's gonna just melt off the cupcake or like slide off, so you kind of do want a stiff texture. You guys are not getting the full effect of the color that I made, but you will see it later on in the video. Pay attention to the consistency that you are looking for. If you're going to pipe the icing on, I suggest that you do use a decorating bag instead of a plastic bag, because plastic bags pop much easier. I decided to use a broader tip because I just like the effect that it gives better. And you know, you snip the corner and you push the tip through. If you're wondering why it was already snipped, it's because it took your girl a couple tries to get it through, but I finally got it. You're going to open the bag and fold it over your hand, and you're going to hold the bag that way. Now, when you're putting the icing in, you're going to use the spatula against your hand to get the icing off of the spatula. Now, remember, if you suck at piping or like you've never done it before and don't want to try it, you don't have to do this whole process. You can just make the icing and then use a spoon or whatever you usually use and put the icing on top of the cupcake and call it a day. Once you got everything into the bag, you're just going to fold up where you had folded down, and then you're going to shake the icing downward and like try to make sure that you get rid of whatever air bubbles that you can see, because it will cause a break in your piping if you let that bubble travel down to the tip. It looks like a little bit of icing, but remember that sometimes a little bit goes a long way. Now, if you look at the wrappers of the cupcakes, you'll see that the excess oil came through on the second wrapper, and I'm just going to remove those because they begin to peel away and it looks unflattering on the cupcake, but it already did its job. This is not some of my best piping work, but I just wanted to show you guys a little bit about how you would pipe it if you wanted to try doing it. Here you guys can get a better idea of what the color of the cupcake is. It's so pretty, isn't it? I made these cupcakes for my sister's birthday actually, so we're gonna put some glitter on it. And I'm obsessed with glitter, so in my eyes you can never have too much glitter. It really reminds me of fairy dust, y'all. Like, I just feel like I'm throwing my magic in there and just making everything beautiful. Remember that all the ingredients will be in the description box along with the recipe. So if the video is confusing, everything is right there for you. Look at that, y'all. Y'all not telling me that that is not gorgeous. But anyways, we're done. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already subscribed. And please hit the little notification bell so that you guys can get notifications for when I post. Later, y'all.